Getting out of victimhood for me has been a biggie. And thinking back to this experience forced me to remember a hard truth. It's 1,000 times easier to be pulled down by someone than to lift someone up when the vibes are off. Misalignment is a killer. Being in the wrong places with the wrong people for the wrong reasons, that shit doesn't just hinder growth, it can flat out derail your life in a major way. It may seem insignificant, but we must choose our vibe carefully. Years ago, I decided to end a very toxic relationship that I had unintentionally put on play repeat. This ex and I had been on and off again for years. We went through a year-long separation, even with no communication. And during that time, I had gotten my life back on track, moved forward in a positive way, sorted out my finances after recovering from ex-induced financial ruin yet again, and even quit social drinking. He eventually circled back for what seemed like round 32, and my compassionate and optimistic, maybe slash unhealed heart, the one forever seeing potential in others rather than reality, agreed to give it one last go. But alas, the merry-go-round of doom seemed endless, and of course, it eventually came to a very dramatic, long overdue end involving ambulances, cop cars, and the special ops team decked out in black on black on black. Yikes, we were the talk of the street for a whole month. Embarrassing. A few months later, I found myself back at an old bar we used to frequent together. But wait a minute, it wasn't happy hour and I didn't drink anymore. So, what the hell was I even doing there that night? Because sometimes we find ourselves reverting to the familiar old patterns that felt safe or comfortable. Problem is, there's never any growth in comfort. Now, I'm not saying when it's time to regroup or reset, you need to chuck your whole life in and move to Bali on permanent retreat. I'm not advising against that either, though, but I am saying sometimes a stock take is necessary. It doesn't need to be a hard and fast cull, or maybe it does. Everyone is their own greatest compass of discernment. Unless you're in your victimhood era, then you should send for reinforcements, like my higher self did. So it's no secret I've lived a colourful past. As I came to find out, this polarity of worlds, the dark and the light, was necessary for my expansion. It was the messy soil needed for my healing. I had to experience it all. So while I had successfully removed that ex once and for all, after all the song and dance that happened at our place that day with all sorts of, ambos and this, that, the other, and I was no longer in his questionable circles either. We still knew some of the same people. And if we're being honest, they were never my circles and it was never my scene. Yet there I found myself one evening, bunkered down, trying to fit back into something that was never my size to begin with. Because why? I missed him. Because my sentimental heart still had her rose-colored glasses on, clutching on to the very few good moments we shared. And while I didn't miss him, I missed the familiarity of who I was with him, the the perceived safety in spaces and people we used to frequent, even if they weren't the type of people I would have chosen for myself. No shade. So, in a moment of weakness, caught between wanting to let go and holding on to familiarity, I found myself back in this space that was us, even though it wasn't. Convinced by a mutual connection that bridged me to that old life, I agreed that a night out would be a good distraction, as sadness had become my default. We glammed up and we headed out. Walking into the bar, the owner's once friendly smile felt distant, disconnected, which only triggered more sadness for me. Things had changed. It wasn't our place anymore. It was full, yet felt lonely. Sitting in our usual spot, we were instantly approached by a regular gangster and his saffron goddess. He had a happiness always floating just above reality. His face was dangerously symmetrical, too handsome to trust. Made people look twice without even knowing why. His allure was enigmatic, with an energy that entered the room before he did. A confidence not born overnight, rather handed down. Old money, old codes, the kind of empire built in silence. She was beauty personified, the kind of woman who made space for other women because she knew real confidence, and her soul showed it. She was soft but strong, a sweet, kind hearted, with undertones of rose water kind of woman. But she also had ruthlessness, no question about it. No one stands beside a man like that without some steel in their spine, I guess. They both looked at me and realized they'd met me before. My familiarity had brought them over, but my missing ex had thrown them off. Leaning in for a greeting, they asked me where he was. "We're not together anymore," I said, just above a whisper, as my sensitive heart welled in my lashes. I offered a brief version of the breakup, but it somehow turned into the feature film it always does with me. The gangster got impatient. He'd heard enough. He kept telling me, like a broken record, it was time to move on. She reached over, soft and certain, and pulled me in tight with a hug. "You did the right thing," she says. He slides me a sympathetic gesture of ouzo, and suddenly something broke. The words I'd been swallowing, the pain I'd been avoiding, my heart just erupted. I was spilling over, the kind that floods. Grief came crashing through me, flooding the bar, filling every watching eye. I tried to censor, but I couldn't. I desperately searched for hate in my heart to pull me out of the sadness, but there was none. I wiped my tears just as a hand gripped my arm, firm, intentional, and he led me toward the toilet with intent, with dominance, with authority, ushering me in, the door locked behind him. It's not that he was a gangster. It's not that he was riding more than one substance. It's not even that he was towering over me, and the predicament was starting to feel a little frightening. It was her, his saffron goddess. She was banging at the door, impatiently escalating. Staring down far too close, his energy shifted, sharp, electric, and with the conviction of someone who's made peace with violence and still believes in angels, he commanded, "Christina, stop. This needs to stop. What the fuck is going on here?" His eyes ablaze. "You are too good for that cunt. You've always been too good for him. What the hell possessed you anyway?" His piercing stare, the warning more was coming. Shaking his head in disbelief and disapproval, he continued, "Stop it, okay? Listen to me. You're going to stop this crying right now. Do you understand?" He repeated it louder. "Right now. I don't even know you, but I know you're not meant for this. Not in this place. You're not meant for this shit, for this life." I wasn't sure if he meant crying in bar toilets or if he meant the circles my ex ran in. He continued, "I'm not saying this because you're beautiful." He gestured, jaw tight, his eyes lingering too long, betraying what he couldn't say out loud. "This is about truth," he goes on. "You're an angel, a queen, and I swear to God I don't want to see another tear leave those eyes. Not one." He stepped back, just enough for air to reach me. "Now pick up your fucking crown and start acting like you know who the fuck you are." He walked out and I just stood there stunned, a witness to the grief knocked right out of me. That night I learnt you can find light in the dark. And in that moment he saw it. Not Christina, me, the real me, my essence, my soul. He knew I didn't belong there. He knew I needed a firm reminder because light should not stay dark for long. I didn't fear him. I heard him sternly, realizing I had only misplaced the crown, and the crime boss didn't steal it. He helped me find it. In that moment, I remembered I wasn't about that life. No judgment. It just wasn't mine. I'd grown used to it, though. I got accustomed to the chaos. I'd become too familiar with places even angels don't dare fly. I was delusional, let's be for real. And giving up my power to victimhood was a good distraction at the time. But unalignment was no longer a viable option for me. I was also reminded in that moment that people are just people. We're all here on different journeys, living different lives, experiencing them uniquely. It's just the way it is. Him and his saffron beauty were not regular, but they were still just people. And although their way of life wasn't something I would want for myself, he fully accepted who he was, and he was in alignment with his own life decisions and path, which in turn allowed the pretty faced gangster to stand in his truth and help me see my own. As much as I wanted to blame my ex for my pain, and the harsh truth is it's always about us and it's never about them. The biggest breakthroughs don't come necessarily when things fall apart. They come when we get so sick and tired and saturated by our own shit that we are forced to move into action to bring us back onto the path of alignment. Pulling back that toilet door revealed what had been there all along. I'd suspected it, but I wasn't ready to face it. On some level, I must have been afraid of standing alone because it made me question who I was. And if I wasn't someone else's, then who the hell was I? Hearing it, admitting it, and owning it allowed the unpacking to begin. Victimhood opened its doors to lifetime of baggage, finally asking to be set free. I'm grateful to the gangster and his unapologetic home truths. I hadn't even noticed how cleanly he sliced through my victimhood story, the one I'd been dragging around, where unworthiness was dressed up as identity. He wasn't gentle, and his delivery wasn't my version of kind. He just called it loud, direct, real. He told me to quit the victim role and stop playing best supporting act in my own damn life. I respect that because alignment doesn't always come from a meditation mat or from soul journaling. Sometimes it comes from a gangster, a locked toilet, and a shot of ouzo straight to the soul. And honestly, that's divine intervention enough for me.